Namaste. I'm Rishabh, and we finally come to the last taal, the last rhythm cycle in our discussion of taals in this series. In this episode, we discuss the most common 7-beat rhythm cycle, or also known as Rupak taal. So one thing which I did not mention in the previous episodes is that when I say one of the most common 7-beat rhythm cycles or one of the most common 10-beat rhythm cycle, it means that Rupak is not the only 7-beat rhythm cycle, or ek taal is not the only 12-beat rhythm cycle. There are many other 10-beat rhythm cycles, but one of the most common 7-beat rhythm cycle, one of the most common 7-beat taal is Rupak. One of the most common 12-beat taal is ek taal, and so on with teen taal. Similarly, in the 14-beat arena, we have dhamar, we have deep chandi, we have jhumra, each with its own characteristic. So now let's discuss the most common 7-beat rhythm cycle, which is Rupak. Now the most characteristic thing about Rupak, which any Tom, Dick and Harry would know, is that the first beat is not a dha or a dhin or a heavy weightage bol. It's a tin. So Rupak begins with a khali. Every other taal that we saw in this series begins with tali, with a place of weightage. But the sum of Rupak is on a khali. So first of all, before getting to that, let's count out the beats, the 7-beat. What would the 7 beats sound like? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 1. Next, what do? We take this one layer deeper and we add the tali and the khali, the places of weightage and the places of emptiness. So what would that sound like along with the numbers that we just recited? So 1, 2, the first beat is a khali here, not a tali. So keep that in mind. It's very, very peculiar to Rupak. So that would sound something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7 and 1. The 1 is a khali. And tali, as you may have seen or noticed, are on the 4th and the 6th beat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 1. So 1 khali and 2 talis. Again, as we have done with the previous taals, teen taal, ek taal, jhap taal, let's give some life to Rupak taal by reciting its bols, its lyrics. So it's not just numbers, it's not just 1, 2, 3, 4. Rupak has its own bols. So what does that sound like? So 1, 2, 3, the sum is a khali. Adding the bols, it would sound something like ti, na, dhi, na, dhi, na, and ti, na, dhi, na, dhi, na, and ti. Oh shit. So that would sound something like ti, na, dhi, na, and ti, na, dhi, na, and ti. You'll find many tabla players and many other musicians recite it as, instead of ti na, they'll recite it as tin na, because tin is actually the bol that is played on the tabla, and on the books you'll mainly find it written as ti. So instead of ti and dhi, the actual tabla bols would be tin and dhin. So in that case, it would sound something like tin na, dhin na, tin. And this would go on and on. So again, finally coming to the padhant, or the way how you're supposed to recite this bol, and all of the modulation, all of the intonation that comes into the bol, as we have discussed before. Go check those videos out if you haven't. Go check the teen taal video out. Go check the ek taal, jhap taal video out. It will really help you understand the subsequent videos. So what does intonation, what does padhant mean in this case? The way how we recite it is exactly the way how the tabla player plays it on the tabla. And all of the modulation, all of the, dhin na and dhin na, all of it comes from the left, which you can modulate with the base of your left palm or your wrist. Depending on the pressure that you give with your left hand, you can create waves and modulations. So when you recite Rupak for someone, it should always sound something like, you should always have these waves wherein you are using both like dha or dhin, in the sense that tin na, dhin na, and tin na, dhin na, tin na, dhin na, and tin. Rupak is a taal, is a rhythm cycle which is extremely flexible. It can be used in semi-classical, light classical. There are such great compositions in Indian classical music. in extremely heavy rags like Megh, which are based on a taal like Rupak. And you know what? We've actually covered Rupak and Jhap in one of the previous, reaction videos that we do. So let me know in the comment section in which video have we covered Rupak, in which video have we covered Jhap. So with that, we come to the end of this episode. I hope this was extremely short and simple. So the more taals that you discuss, the easier the subsequent taals become easier to understand. After this, what we're going to do is that we're going to go back to the reaction videos, newer reaction videos, maybe put up by Darbar or Saptak Music Festival or maybe other music festivals. And we're going to try and break down the taals that we've covered in the previous 4 episodes and see that if we can truly recognize these taals being played on stage by these great maestros, only then can all of this discussion that we just had, only then will it make some sense, right? So with that, we come to the end of this episode. I'll see you in the next episode with a great reaction video. And till then, namaste.